All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to start up a new section, which is a new chapter, section 2.2, which is on percentages. Just as a reminder, so our first exam is going to be due on Friday of this week. So if you haven't already taken it, please try to make sure you get it done sooner rather than later so that you have time to take the multiple attempts if you would like to do so. Yeah. Can't think of anything else I wanted to say. So what I'll talk about is percentages. So what we have is, first off, we have percent form. So we have something like 12%, something like that. And that's the percent symbol, of course. And so that's the percent form of the number. Now that's equal to 12%. And so just in case you don't know, that's coming from the Latin roots, per meaning divide by, and cent meaning 100, like centimeters, like there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So it's 12 divided by 100. So another way to write 12% is 12 out of 100. That's going to be 12 divided by 100, which is equal to 0.12. That is decimal form. So there's percent and there's decimal form of any given percentage number. There is a percent form, which is usually how we like to see things visualized, but the decimal form, that's the way we like to see things in a mathematical formula. Because like 12%, that's kind of how we talk about it in the real world. But if we're talking about it in the math world, we're looking at it as a decimal. So anyways, if you want to go from percent, so percent to decimal, the way that that's done is by dividing your percent value by 100 to get the decimal form. Dividing our value by 100. So for example, if we had, we already listed it, but I'm going to write it again. So 12%, you take 12 divided by 100, you get 0.12. Something like 75%. That's going to be 75 divided by 100, which is going to be 0.75. But these can even be weirder numbers. So we could have something like 7.104%. That's going to be 7.104 divided by 100, which becomes 0.07104. And you can use your calculator to verify it, but I'm going to mention something as we finish this stuff about a little trick that you can do. And another one, 0.1%. That's 0.1 divided by 100, which is 0.001. So 0.1% as a decimal is 0.001. It's a very small number. So the decimal version of number is always the smaller of the two. Converting to decimal form, your number should always be smaller. But you can also have, notice that all these numbers, all these percentages that I've listed on the left, those are all percentages less than 100%. But we can see plenty of situations where percentages go above 100%. And it's done the same way. So if you have like 115%, you're just going to take that number, 115 divided by 100. That gives you 1.15. Now, if you were to do the other way, though, if you want to go from decimal to percent, I mean, these are two sides of the same coin. So if we're going to talk about doing the opposite, all we're going to do is the opposite operation. So to convert from decimal to percentage, you multiply your decimal by 100 and tack on the percent symbol. You multiply by 100 and then write the percent symbol to symbolize that it's in its percent form. If you don't write the percent symbol, or if it's not listed in a problem, that is assumed to be the decimal form of the number. So keep that in mind. So some examples. If you had the decimal version of your percent as 0.64, what you would do is you take that 0.64 and you would multiply it by 100, which would give you 64, and then we'll tack on that percent symbol right away. So 0.01, notice that, or I guess I could have done the 0.1, but 0.01 as a decimal, we'll multiply that by 100. So 0.01 times 100, we get 1%. And then if we have a number larger than 1, like maybe 1.35, you do the same thing. Even though this is going to be a number larger than 1, you can get a percentage that's larger than 100. So 1.35 times 100, which is 135%. Now, you probably have noticed a little bit of a pattern here with these numbers. It has to do with the decimal place. Exactly right. So there's the shortcut. So I'm going to write percent form on the left. And then I'm going to write a double arrow. And I hope once I write what this is, hopefully it will make sense. And then decimal form. So you want to go from percent form to decimal form. You're going from the larger number to the smaller number. That means that you're going to move the decimal place 2 places to the left. So move decimal 2 places to the left. Whereas if you want to go from decimal to percentage, you're taking a smaller number and you want to make it into the big version of the number. So you're going to move the decimal place 2 units to the right. So you now no longer have to do any multiplication. You can just do it this way. And that's because this is by powers of 10. That's a very, very useful thing about powers of 10 is that they, like, when you multiply or divide by a power of 10, it just moves the decimal place. Divide by 10, you just move it 1 point to the left. Multiply by 100, move it 2 spots to the right, so on and so forth. So an example of this shortcut and the way you should do it from now on is if you have 64%, you're going to write that 64 as 64.0, and you're going to convert it by placing this decimal point there. So your decimal version is 0.64. If you have 1.835, what you're going to do is you're going to move the decimal place to the right to convert it to percent form. And get 183.5%. Percents are everywhere in our life. They happen quite frequently, most commonly at the supermarket or at a department store, talking about a 25% off sale and all that jazz. But how do we figure out how much is going to be after that fact? Now, a lot of it can be done with mental math, but you can also do it via equation, because that's how this concept comes up. So we have what we call the percent equation. So I know I'm writing pretty quickly, so I'm going to take a step back for a second. And if this is a review, great. If it isn't, that's fine too. I'll come from different backgrounds here. And that being said, if you've learned how to do percentages a certain way in your past, whatever it may be, you can definitely still apply that method as long as it's mathematically valid. And that should show up once you do the homework, if your method is still working. So how do we set up an equation for percentages? It's where you take an English statement and dissect it into pieces that are mathematical. So an amount A, quote unquote A, is some percentage we'll call P of a base B. That's how we can kind of decipher percentages in terms of the amount and the base. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about once you've written that down. So, for example, you could say 10 is 50% of 20. The amount 10 is our A value. The 50% is our P value, which is 0.50 as a decimal. And then 20 is our base of 20, excuse me. You typically see this as blank is this percentage of base B. So when we see this, we see A is P% of B. You can rewrite that as a mathematical equation. One of the things that is important to know about taking an English statement and converting into mathematics is the word is represents equals, because what we're trying to quantify is that this is this. This equals this. This is another way to say the same thing. So is in mathematics, or like in English, usually corresponds to an equal sign in mathematics. Wait, is in English usually corresponds to an equal sign in mathematics. So you can write this as A is equals P% of B. That's going to be P times B. And that is our formula. That is our formula that we can use. A is equal to P times B. There's a lot of nifty tricks that come up with percentages, by the way, of how to calculate them quickly. But some important remarks about this formula. So this is the formula we're going to be using, but important. So first important remark is that make sure your P value is in decimal form before plugging into the formula. Or I say before working with the formula. Otherwise, you start to get some wonky numbers. Like if there's a sale that's 25% off and you use 25 instead of 0.25, you're going to get a much larger discount than you think. And the person at Express or wherever you're going is going to get a demerit. So just don't tell anybody. And two is that if solving for P, you need to convert back to percentage form. So either by doing the trick, like by moving the decimal place 2 units to the right, or by multiplying by 100. Either way is fine, but that's the important thing. So when you're working with the formula, decimal form, when you're writing an answer, write in percent form. Let's see how to find it. An example, and we're just going to kind of run through several of them. So 1, what is 25% of 90? And instead of like writing out a bunch of examples and then because I'm going to do several of them and I want to address each one separately. So we're going to write the solution under each one. What is 75% of 90? That of 90 gives you a dead giveaway. Whenever you see the of 90, that means that B is equal to 90. Your base of your base. A is P% of your base, B. So B is equal to 90, 25%, that's nice. As soon as you see the percent symbol, you know what that one is. That's got to be P. The P is equal to 0.25. And then the only other variable in the equation is A, right? What is that? So this is our A value. What? Our A is our unknown. So A is equal to P times B. And this is like the reason why I know we don't necessarily need to write it. We could just plug it into the formula. But if you want to memorize it, it's always a good idea to just write it down every single time you do a problem. It's just a free way to get practice memorizing it. Like if it's expected of you to know it, and you have so if you have to know it, might as well do whatever you can to practice memorizing it. So just write it every time. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pen strokes total. So we don't know what A is. We know what P is. It's 0.25. And B is 90. And if we plug this into our calculator, or if you do it by hand, either way, you're going to get 22.5. Any questions on that? So setting up your equation is kind of key if you want to use the equation formula.
So I was already in the form that we used to be in.
That's correct, because the only time you need to convert to decimal form or whatever is if you're talking about P.
Okay.
P always when you're working with the formula, always needs to be in decimal form. Perfect. 2. 35 is 22.2% of what number? Oh, what do we know? What are the three variables do we know? There's the giveaway. P is the giveaway, yes. So solution. P is given to us right here. So P is going to be 0.222. Move the decimal place 2 units to the left to convert it to decimal form. What is our unknown? Is A our unknown or is B our unknown? B. B is our unknown because it's of what number? So B is our unknown. And then that means that 35 must be our A value. So we can set up our equation. 35, or sorry, A is like, let me rewrite it. So we're going to A is equal to P times B. So 35 is equal to 0.222B. And that's an equation that we need to solve for our unknown, our B value. So we're taking B and we're multiplying it by 0.222, which means we need to divide to undo that. Divide by 0.222 on both sides. Cancels it. And we get that B is equal to 35 divided by 0.222 is 157.657657 on and on forever. So that's going to be approximately 157.66. Now they'll tell you on the problem statements as per usual, they'll tell you how many things you should round to. But in class, I just usually round to 2 decimal places. Any questions on those? Good. All right, I'm going to put 2 more up on the board. I'd like you guys to work through these. I will slowly fill in the details. So number 3 is that 217.1 is what percent of 2,700? And then I'm going to skip, that's probably enough room. And then I'll put the next one, 210 is 300% of what number? How about the answer to part question 3, if you'd like to check your work? I write out a bunch of decimals because I'm going to need to convert it to percent form, and then I'm going to need to round my answer. You only round at the very, very, very end. So convert it to a percentage form, then round. That's why I wrote so many decimals, because I was going to have to move it 2 over to the right and then go from there. And we'll talk about them in just a moment. All right, I have the answer up here. I decided to change this one. I originally had it as 210 is what percent of 70. Because if you did that, you get the p-value of 3. But remember, that's as a decimal. But either way. Any questions on that? So let's go through part A. So it's saying 217.1 is what percent of 2700? Of 2700, that means that your b value is 2700. What percent? So that's, we don't know the percent, meaning that the p is unknown. So that must mean that by process of elimination, 217.1 is our a value. The percent equation is a is equal to p times b. So 217.1 is equal to p times 2,700. We want to solve for p, so we'll divide both sides by 2,700, which gives you 0.0804074, which will convert to percentage when answering the question, because we want it in percent form. So move the decimal place 2 units to the right, and you get 8.0407. If we're going to round to 2 decimal places, that'd be 8.04%. Any questions on that? And this, what's up? For sure. And then for number 4 rather, 210 is 300% of what number? Of what number? So that's going to be your base b, and that's unknown because it's saying of what number in question. 300%. As soon as you see that percent symbol, the great thing is that means that that's our p-value. And so that's 300% or 300.0%. So you move the decimal place 2 units to the left, getting that your p-value when you use the formula should be 3. And then a by process of elimination is 210. So 210 is equal to 3b. Divide both sides by 3. Excuse me. You get b is equal to 70. Any questions on that?
So every time I see a percent in the word problem, right?
Mhm.
I have to move the decimal place over to.
That is correct. If you're going to work with the equation, absolutely. Yes, and that will cause a problem.
I was just gonna say, so it doesn't matter if it's P or if it's the B, you divide on both sides.
Yes. All right. Now that we've seen it in a generic context of just doing a math problem, let's have some fun. Let's make it into word problems. Everyone's favorite. Are there any other questions, by the way, before I move on? Any questions? So, a student correctly answers 27 out of 40 questions on an exam. What percent is this? Now, in practice, and you can do this quickly too, one might say it's going to be 27 over 40. And whatever number you get, that's going to be your percentage. And that's correct. And the reason it's correct is because that's what you're just doing the percent formula immediately. And I just want to show you how you can actually convert this to a percent formula. So P is the unknown, right? It says what percent? We don't know the percent. So P is unknown. And it says 27 out of 40. The of 40 gives us the B value. And that means that A must be 27. And this is why you like to find the percentage on a score for anything, like for a score in an assignment, you take your value and divide it by 40 or divide it by the number of total points. Because what you're going to get, once again, if you write A is equal to P times B. And I know that's tedious. I know. No, we don't want to rewrite the equation, but you want to be like Uma Thurman and Kill Bill. You want to wake up in the middle of the night, punch the wall. Instead of waking up and punching the wall, you're going to write down on the wall A is equal to P times B. So this is going to be 27 is equal to P, our unknown, times 40. To solve for P, we would divide by 40. And get that P is equal to 27 over 40, which is 0.675. But we want it as a percentage, so we'll convert it to percent form by moving our decimal 2 places to the right. And so it's a 67.5%. Not ideal, but close to a C. So C would be a 70% or above. So we're close. As long as we do our homework, that'll bump us up past that threshold. Now, in practice, by the way, if this type of problem shows up on the homework, you can absolutely just do 27 divided by 40. That's the fast hand way to do it. It's the fast way to do it. But this is the reason why it works. Why that's what we do. Any questions on that? The hardest part, honestly, with these word problems is taking the equation or taking the English sentence and converting it to a mathematical equation. Once that step is done, then it follows pretty quickly. That's the good news. It's just a matter of taking into account everything. Another example, and this closely ties into one thing we're going to be talking about later on in finance. So John's monthly income, not net, no, net income, monthly net income is $4,800. And his rent is $1,200. He's got a 4 by 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot apartment. It's based on how rent prices have gone lately. It's insane. And if you're not outraged by it, you should be. So what percent of his monthly income goes towards rent? The reason why I mention this one is that there is a it's extremely outdated at this point, but there's a I don't know what you want to call it, like a law or a rule of thumb that your rent should be a third of your monthly income, which is dwindling by the second. But especially like saying, oh, inflation's only up. No, inflation's only up 9%. Bull crap. Because actually, and this is why you can use percentages. So I remember going to Costco. Do you guys remember those Naked chicken nuggets? Like the brand Naked. Like they have these chicken nuggets that taste just like Chick-fil-A nuggets. They're very, very good. Before the pandemic, I remember that being like, I think it was like $15, and now they're up to 26 or something like that. So it's insane. That is not 9%. That is more towards like 40%. So I think actually my wife and I sat down and did the math, and it was that groceries on average were up like 40%. So bull crap, it's 9%. Yeah, like the average American experiences it much harder. Yeah, maybe for other things it's only up 8%, but not the average American. Either way, so that's why I wanted to bring up this one. Okay, so how do we break this down? What is the unknown? P, because it says what percent, that is the unknown. So right off the bat, we know that we're trying to find P. So what would B be? The 4,800, because that's of his monthly income. So we take the, like, you could basically rewrite this as one sentence and say, what percent of his monthly rent of $4,800 is going towards his rent, which is $1,200. So the of his monthly income. Of his monthly income. So this means that B is equal to 4,800. And then that must mean, by process of elimination, that this is A. A is equal to PB. So it's going to be 1,200. It's equal to P, which is unknown, times 4,800. And to solve for P, we have to undo the multiplication of 4,800. So we're going to divide 4,800. Cancels it. And we get that P is equal to, so 1,200, about, I don't even, that's 0.25. So it's only 0.25% of his income. No. 25%. We've got to convert it to percentage form. So 25%. So I would say that John's doing pretty well. Got 35% for all his other, or 75% for all his other expenses. Pretty good, pretty solid right there. But then 50% will be student loans that have been reneged on. We're gonna repay them. No. Just kidding. Love that. That's really nice. Any questions on that? Okay. Now, one thing I'm going to take a side on, and like I do want to preface this story. So Phil's hot tip for roughly 20%. Now, yes, I know there's apps that do this on your phone now, like figuring out percentages, and some places even have like the press the button to just give whatever percentage you want. But back in my day, I definitely remember went to a PF Chang's when I was a kid, and the couple next to my friends and I were having an argument, and the man is going, "What is 10% of 90? What is 10% of 90?" And the girl, the wife or girlfriend was like, I don't even care. I don't even care. Like it's just a terrible argument that could be avoided if you knew this hot tip. So how to figure out what your percentage, like what you should tip based on it. So this is how I do it, and I don't use a calculator at all, so that so I don't have to reach in my pocket to grab it, right? So step one. And granted, yes, you can use your calculator when you go out to eat, whatever. But this is just another way if you don't want to do that, or if you want to impress your date, right? So step one, move the decimal one digit to the left. So for example, if your meal ended up costing $74.89, you would move it just one decimal place over and get $7.49 ish, 7.489. So busting out the gas company's way of charging you for every cent and say $7.48 and 9/10 of a penny. So that is 10%. 10% of your total. So that's a quick way to find 10%. So if that's 10%, all you would need to do is just double it to get 20%. But sometimes it's a nasty number. Sometimes it's like $7.19. Who wants to multiply 19 twice? Right? That's not too fun. That's not fun. So what I do, step two, is good service, round up to the next dollar. Right? If your server was great, round up to the next dollar. Now, if you don't want to be that generous, like maybe it's $8.01. Maybe you only round up to a next $0.50, so $8.50. Because multiplying 50 twice is not too terrible. And then if it's bad service, then you're going to round down. And because even though it was bad service, they're the backbone of America, right? The service industry is the backbone of America, and they get swindled out of a lot of money by the fact that they make.
Here in Las Vegas,
Really?
like in Texas, in the service industry, their taxes are only $2 an hour.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Oh, we have like so I don't know too much about the laws of service industry in Vegas, but do they have it so that it's set up so that you don't you actually get a livable wage?
Yeah, paycheck is calculated like a paycheck versus like in other places, your paycheck is nothing and you're only bringing home dinner.
That's nice. That's good to hear. That makes me happy. But so when you go out into Texas, so I don't know why you would burn on Texas. No, I'm kidding. I have some feelings in that one, but that's really because my parents moved there for no reason, away from all of their kids. So step three. So now that you've either rounded up to the nearest dollar or rounded down to the nearest dollar, all you need to do is double it, and that will be your tip. Now, this is of course for like meals that are not like a fancy dinner meal. That's always crazy. Like if your meal ends up being like $700, I feel like a 20% tip is a little bit ridiculous. That'd be a $140 tip. I mean, they did the exact same thing that I got at Outback. They did the exact same thing. I mean, maybe they didn't. Maybe they do the fancy dining thing where they pour like the liquid fire while they're doing things. But anyways, so example, let's use this thing in action. And so this is one of those ones. This is mental math. So it's a quick calculation. So based on the method above, what should you tip? For a service costing $57.22, your average venti Starbucks order. With good service. So this is why you don't even need a calculator for this one. We're gonna move the decimal. So color 57.22. Move the decimal place 1 unit to the right or to the left, excuse me. $5.72 and 2/10 of a penny. And so we're going to round up for good service to $6 and then double it. So a $12 tip. Oh. And then we'd have to add that to our total. And the reason why I like this, by the way, this is another reason why I like doing this, is that if I round up to $1, now I don't need to worry about the decimal of my total order. Because now I don't have to add like 10 point, or no, it'd be 11.44, and then adding that, so $11.44, add that to $57.22. Not terrible. You can do the whole thing we've all learned with our addition method, but this way I don't have to worry about the decimal at all. So that's my little hot tip for how to do it, so that you can go over to that angry couple and just say, hey, this is what you do. How about you just divorce that man? That's no way to talk to your wife, or your significant other in general. So just remember being baffled by it. Anyways, now let's do one that's a little more complicated. Let's do a bigger example. A clothing store has a sale for 17% off. I don't know why it's 17%. Maybe it's the July 17th sale or something like that, or August 17th, whatever it may be. 7% the whole of the whole store. You want to buy a jacket costing $68.99. How much will you pay if sales tax, which in the great state of Nevada, I believe is 8.38%. It could be wrong though. That might have changed from when I wrote these notes. 8.38% on the sale price. Now that I'm thinking about it, now I need to know, what is the sale price? What is sales tax in Nevada? I have to know. Really? Okay. 8.23. 8.23. So not 8.38. 8.23. So first and foremost, we kind of have to understand what the question's mentioning. So the jacket originally cost $68.99, but it's going to be on sale for 17% off, which means that we're only like, so whatever that sale price is going to be, we're only going to be paying tax on that amount. So we're going to take care of that 8.23 at the very, very end. Now, there are many ways you can do this. There's I think I'll probably try and do it in 2 ways to see which way resonates with you more. Because there's the long way and then there's the short way. The long way would be to figure out what 17% of $68.99 is, to figure out how much has been taken off from the sale. So so this is option one. What is 17% of $68.99? What is the sale, like how much is going to be taken off from the sale? So that's going to be, this is your A value. Your A value is unknown. Your P value is 0.17, and your B value must be 68.99. Doing this, setting up the percent equation, A is equal to P times B. So this would be A is equal to 0.17 times 68.99, which ends up being 11.7283, which is approximately, we'll round to the nearest hundredth because that's cents. I already used that joke, so I can't make it again. $11.73 off the price, or the OG price. That's how much was taken off. So then we'll have to subtract that from the total price. 68.99 minus 11.73. Gives me $57.26. This is the sales price, or the sale price.
Sale price would be calculated.
Yes, without sales tax. Like, without tax. So, now that we have that, this is, once again, this is the long way of doing things. And I'll show you the shorthand way instead as well. So now, what is 8.23% of $57.26. Same situation. A is the unknown, because we're trying to find the amount that you're going to have to charge for sales tax. So once again, A is the unknown, P is 0.0823, because this is a decimal version when you're using the equation. And then this is our B value. That is to say, A is equal to P times B. Yes, I'm writing it every time. I'm gonna write it every time. A is equal to 0.0823 times $57.26. So times 0.0823. So A is going to be $4.71, and then 2498. And so we'll round up to $4.71, or round down, excuse me, to $4.71 in tax. So the total price will be that $57.26 plus that $4.71. So the total price will be $61.97. That was a very, very long-winded way of doing it. You first had to find the amount of the sale, the amount of the tax, and then deduct it or add it, depending on whether it was the sale price, like the sale amount, or the tax amount. So that was a long-winded process when you could do it a different way. Option 2. Unless there's any questions on option 1. Any questions on how we did that? Great to hear. Thank you. Appreciate it. So instead of saying what would be 17% of the amount, so that's taking 17% off the price. That means, so if it's on sale for 17% off, that means that the jacket will be 83% of what it costs initially. So this way we don't need to do any subtraction. I mean, we did it inadvertently at the very beginning. So why did I say 83%? Because 100%, that's the actual price of it, minus the 17% would give you 83%. So this allows you to do this without having to do any subtractions at all. You just need to do 83%. So you're going to do your A value is the unknown. Your P value is 83%, so 0.83. And your B value is still 68.99. Right, 68.99, right? Yeah. So A is equal to 0.83 times 68.99. And 0.83 times 68.99. Lo and behold, it's 57.2617, approximately 57.26. It's the exact same number. Pretty cool. Mathematically, we can show the reason why this works, but if you want to see a proof of why this works, but that's what you can do. Instead of having to do a subtraction of a original price item minus the sale amount, you can instead get how much it's going to be off, and then take that off from the original price at the beginning. If it's 70%, like if it's 20% off, it's 80% of what it originally was. If it's 50% off, it's 50, like 50 minus 100 minus 50 is 50. It's a bad example. It's 40% off, it's 60% of what it originally was. And that's how you get, so you still have to do this in 2 steps, because now that we have this, now we can do the sales tax. So part 1, and then now this is the other thing. If sales tax is 8.23%, that is on top of the, how do I say this the way I want to say it? So I'm adding this to my notes because I like this. I like showing this. Sales tax is 8.23%. That is on top of the 100% of the sale price. Meaning our final charge will be 108.23% of the sale price. So instead of having to find what sales tax is and then add it, you just add the percentage on top. Because that's what you're doing. You find out how much 8.23% is of the amount, and then just add that to the amount of the clothing item. So you can just, instead of multiplying by 8.23% and then adding that on top, you can just compute 108.23%. So in this case, A is still the unknown. P is now 1.0823. because it's 108.23%. So move the decimal place 2 left, and you get 1.0823. And then B is still going to be 57.26. So A is equal to P times B. So A is equal to 1.0823 times 57.26, which is equal to 61.972 or 8, blah, 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 blah. So rounded to $61.97, which is exactly what we should have got. Right. So boom, another way to do the exact same problem, but I wanted to show you the 2 different ways to think about it. Because truthfully, I do it the second way. When I try and calculate tax and sales.
The second way, meaning not this way, the one before it.
Oh, this way, the way we just did. Yeah. Because it ends up dealing with nicer numbers, because like it's very rare that like a store is going to say it's 17.85% off. It's usually a very nice number, 20%, 30%, whatever. So, any question? It indeed does make sense. So I can't be tamed. As soon as Phoenix is born, now I got to make Jad jokes all the time. It's just part of the deal. Okay, times it. So that was all I wanted to get through on percentages. That's all we need to do. Unless there's any questions, might as well get out early. I'm giving you these extra 13 minutes. Go take the exam. Go take the exam, people. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. As a reminder, so section 1.5 and 1.6 homework and quiz got extended. Please make sure you do them soon. That's free practice for the upcoming for the exam that's due on Friday. But if you don't finish it before then, it's due on Sunday night at midnight, just like section 2.1 homework and section 2.2 homework. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Otherwise, you guys have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Good luck on the exam.